What if one of the most dramatic moments in human history had gone the other way? What if Hernán Cortés, the Spanish conquistador who toppled the Aztec Empire in the early 16th century, had been defeated instead? Imagine Tenochtitlan, the grand city at the heart of Mesoamerica, standing undefeated, its warriors victorious, its rulers intact. The European ambition to colonize the Americas collapses in the New World's very center. Entire continents are reshaped. Cultures flourish or fade. The balance of global power shifts. By the end of this exploration, you'll see how a single battle could have rewritten history and reshaped the modern world. Keep watching, because the consequences of an Aztec victory would have reached far beyond the battlefield. The divergence begins in 1521. In real history, the Spanish conquest succeeded due to superior weaponry, strategic alliances with local enemies of the Aztecs, and the catastrophic spread of smallpox. But what if the Aztecs had anticipated these threats? What if Montezuma's generals had devised strategies to counter Cortés's army and contain disease outbreaks more effectively? In this alternate timeline, the Aztec leadership fortifies the causeways and canals of Tenochtitlan and employs ambush tactics that decimate the Spanish forces. Cortés is captured, and the rest of his men retreat in disarray. The Aztec Empire remains intact, its leadership unshaken. This single military victory creates a cascade of consequences. Without the Spanish conquest, the demographic collapse caused by European diseases is dramatically reduced. The population of Mesoamerica remains strong, capable of defending the region and even projecting influence beyond its borders. The Aztecs' political and military structures are reinforced by victory, allowing them to consolidate power, stabilize the empire, and extend influence over neighboring regions. The balance of power in the Americas is fundamentally altered before European ambitions can gain a foothold. The immediate effects of an Aztec victory are profound. Tenochtitlan becomes an unassailable capital, a hub of political, economic, and military activity. The city thrives, its markets bustling, its warriors revered, its leaders secure. Montezuma, or his successor, depending on the timeline, leverages this victory to strengthen alliances with surrounding city-states and neighboring civilizations. Tribes that had previously resisted Aztec dominance are persuaded or compelled to accept Aztec rule, creating a more unified Mesoamerican front. For Europe, the consequences are humiliating. Spain loses prestige and confidence. The myth of European invincibility begins to crumble, and other nations reconsider their colonial ambitions. France, Portugal, and England face a new reality. The New World is not an open prize, but a region dominated by a sophisticated, organized, and militarily capable civilization. The Spanish crown, already dealing with domestic issues, struggles to mount further expeditions, effectively halting the initial wave of European colonization in Mesoamerica. The Aztec victory also preserves cultural and intellectual continuity. Without the devastation caused by conquest and disease, traditions, codices, and knowledge systems survive intact. Astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and architecture continue to develop within the empire, unimpeded by foreign disruption. This preservation lays the foundation for centuries of innovation and societal evolution that are unimaginable in our timeline. As the Aztec Empire stabilizes, the wider region is forced to respond. Neighboring civilizations, including the Mixtec, Zapotec, and Tlaxcalan, observe the Aztec triumph and reconsider their political strategies. Some seek alliances, recognizing the power and stability of the empire, while others attempt resistance, only to find themselves subdued. This process strengthens the Aztecs' regional dominance, creating a centralized and more cohesive political structure than ever before. The global consequences are even more dramatic. European powers, observing Spain's failure, reconsider the risks of transatlantic expeditions. The age of exploration, as it unfolded in our world, slows significantly. Colonization patterns change, with European nations either postponing incursions into the Americas or seeking alternative routes to wealth and influence. Without the easy access to American gold, silver, and other resources, European economies develop differently, with a slower accumulation of wealth and power. This affects wars, dynastic politics, and the balance of power in Europe for generations. The victory also opens possibilities for the Aztec Empire to expand beyond its traditional borders. With European powers delayed, the Aztecs have time to project influence across Mesoamerica, potentially exploring maritime trade routes along the Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean. Knowledge, goods, and culture flow in directions never possible in our timeline, setting the stage for an alternate world order. A victorious Aztec empire is not just militarily dominant, it becomes a center of innovation. Agricultural practices, especially chinampas, the floating gardens that sustain urban populations, are expanded and refined. Population growth accelerates, urban centers thrive, and infrastructure projects unify the empire. Roads, canals, and causeways improve trade and communication. The Aztecs' technological evolution also accelerates. Weaponry improves, combining traditional obsidian tools with new metallurgy techniques learned from limited contact with Europeans who remain outside the empire's borders. Astronomy and mathematics advance, driven by state-supported scholars who now have uninterrupted access to resources and codices. Knowledge is applied not just for ritual or record-keeping, but for agriculture, engineering, and governance, creating an empire with unprecedented capacity to manage large populations and territories. Culturally, the empire flourishes. Religion, art, and literature continue to evolve in ways that were interrupted by conquest in our timeline. Without the imposition of European norms, Mesoamerican traditions dominate everyday life and influence neighboring regions. Codices are written, schools flourish, and the empire's intellectual output attracts attention far beyond its borders. Yet, even with these advances, questions arise. Could the Aztecs eventually rival Europe's naval and industrial power? Could they become a global empire, or would isolation and geography limit their reach? The story is far from over. By the 17th century, the Aztec Empire has evolved into a continental power. Trade networks extend into the Caribbean and along the Gulf Coast, connecting cities and expanding influence. European powers, still recovering from failed colonization attempts, are forced to negotiate trade agreements rather than impose direct control. The wealth and resources of the Americas are no longer extracted unilaterally, but controlled by an empire capable of defending its sovereignty. This reshapes global economics. Spain does not experience the same influx of American gold, slowing European inflation and the concentration of wealth. France, England, and Portugal must pursue alternative routes to riches, perhaps accelerating exploration in Africa and Asia in different ways. Wars that defined Europe in our timeline, dynastic conflicts, colonial skirmishes, global rivalries, are altered as the flow of resources from the New World no longer tips the balance of power. Socially, the Aztec Empire becomes a hub of innovation and culture. Education and state-supported scholarship expand knowledge and literacy. Codices, astronomy, and medical knowledge are shared with allied regions, creating a sphere of influence that begins to rival European intellectual centers. Religion remains central, but pragmatic governance ensures stability, enabling the empire to endure challenges that might have toppled less organized societies. Fast forward to the 21st century. In this alternate world, the Aztec Empire has endured, evolved, and adapted. Urban centers blend ancient architecture with modern infrastructure. Education incorporates centuries of uninterrupted Aztec scholarship. Scientific and technological advances draw from a hybrid of traditional knowledge and selectively adopted European techniques. Global geopolitics are fundamentally altered. The Americas are dominated by an Aztec-led coalition. Europe's colonial ambitions are limited, reshaping world conflicts and alliances. Trade networks are global, but they operate under a balance of power that never existed in our timeline. Culture is also transformed. Language, art, and philosophy rooted in Mesoamerican traditions influence global thought, creating a world where Aztec contributions to science, politics, and society are central rather than suppressed. Yet even in this imagined future, tension exists. Powerful empires inevitably face internal struggles, rivalries, and the challenges of maintaining influence over vast territories. The Aztecs' continued success would depend on innovation, adaptability, and the ability to integrate knowledge from the wider world, a test every empire faces. The victory of the Aztec Empire over the Spanish is more than a military what if. It's a lens through which to examine the fragility of history and the immense impact of individual events. A single battle, a single strategic choice could have reshaped continents, cultures, and the modern world. It's a reminder that history is not predetermined and that the outcomes we take for granted were far from inevitable. If this exploration of alternate history fascinated you, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss our next deep dive into the turning points that could have rewritten the world. History might not be fixed, but imagining it differently reveals just how extraordinary human events really are.